All right, let's jump right in. Sometimes the shortest, most random-looking conversations in ancient texts are hiding these incredible stories. And today we're going to unpack one of those, a really tense, kind of puzzling encounter between a patriarch and a king. And what it reveals is just, wow. It's got layers of diplomacy, history, and this hidden sense of, well, awe.
So this is where it all kicks off. Isaac, he's Abraham's son, and he hits this king, who just shows up at his camp with this really sharp question. I mean, you can just feel the tension in the air, right? It cuts right to the heart of what is a very, very strange situation. And that's the mystery we're here to solve today. Okay, so let's set the scene a little. Isaac has become super successful, like crazy prosperous. So much so that the local Philistine king, Abimelech, starts to get a little nervous, and he basically kicks him out of the region of Gerar. So Isaac packs up his stuff and moves on. The message couldn't be clearer. You're too powerful for us, you gotta go.
And then, get this, almost immediately after throwing him out, the same king, Abimelech, shows up at Isaac's new camp. And he's not by himself, he brings his chief of troops along. And what does he want? A peace treaty. I mean, talk about a whiplash. It's a total reversal that on the surface makes absolutely no sense at all.
So yeah, that's the big puzzle here. Why would a king who just forced you out of his territory suddenly chase you down to make a pact? To get to the bottom of this, we're going to follow the clues laid out by one of history's absolute greatest commentators, Rashi. We're going to be like detectives, you and I, reading this ancient script for hidden meaning. Okay, so our very first clue, it's hidden in plain sight. It's right there in the description of who came along with the king. The text is super specific, but the way it's worded is, well, it's a little strange. And that's exactly what a mind like Rashi's zeroes in on.
So the verse says Abimelech came with Phakal, his general. And then there's this phrase, Va'achuzat merehu. Now, for centuries, people have been debating what this actually means. Is it a name, a title, a description of the group? This one tiny little phrase, it's the key to unlocking the king's real motivation.
So Rashi looks at this, and he breaks it down into two main possibilities. The difference seems so tiny, right? It's either a group formed from his circle of friends, or it's the one and only company of his friends. A tiny little word, but that subtle distinction, oh, it's everything.
I know, it sounds like we're splitting hairs here. But seriously, think about it from a king's perspective. How you describe your entourage, the people you bring with you, that carries real weight. One of these readings is totally fine, but the other one, well, according to Rashi, the other one would be a major social and political mistake.
Okay, so let's follow Rashi's logic here. He uses this brilliant mix of like social etiquette and just deep grammatical knowledge to prove which interpretation is the right one. And in doing so, he reveals something absolutely crucial about the king's state of mind. So Rashi's first point is simple. You just wouldn't say a king brought the company of his friends. And why not? Well, because it kind of implies he brought all his friends, his entire inner circle. It makes him sound small, like he only has this one little group of buddies. For a monarch, that's just not dignified. It just doesn't sound right. Okay, fine. But if we go with interpretation A, a company formed from his friends, we hit a bit of a grammatical speed bump. See, the Hebrew word for company here, achuzat, it has this ending that usually means it's connected to the next word, like company of something. But here, it kind of seems to be standing on its own. So, how does Rashi get around that?
And this is where we really see Rashi's genius at work. He basically says, oh, you think that's a grammatical problem? Don't worry, I can prove it's totally correct. And then he pulls out examples from completely different books of the Bible, from Psalms, from Isaiah, showing other places where this exact same weird grammatical structure shows up. He proves that a company from his friends is not only the most logical and polite way to read it, but it's also 100% grammatically sound. Case closed.
All right, clue number 1 solved. Let's move on to our next clue, which comes from Abimelech's own words. Now that we've figured out the deal with his entourage, we can really focus on what he says. And just like before, there's a subtle little repetition here that's so easy to miss, but, oh, it is packed with meaning.
So when Abimelech finally explains why he's there, he says, Rao ra'inu. Now, that literally translates to something like, seeing, we have seen. You have to wonder, why say it twice? Why not just say, we saw? In a text like this, where every word counts, that kind of repetition is always a signal to lean in and pay closer attention.
And Rashi's explanation for this is it's so elegant. He says the two saws are talking about two different points in time across two different generations. Abimelech is essentially saying, listen, we saw what happened with your father, Abraham. We saw that God was with him, that he was divinely blessed and protected. And now, we're seeing the exact same thing happening with you.
And realizing that this is about a historical pattern, well, it changes everything. When Abimelech says, let there be an oath between us, Rashi points out that he's not pitching a brand new idea. What he's really saying is, let's renew the oath that already existed between us and your father. He wants back in. He wants to restore that long-standing relationship.
Okay, so let's step back and put all these pieces together now. We've decoded the entourage, we've decoded the double language. So what is this diplomatic visit really all about?
Well, one thing's for sure. This is so much more than just a nervous king trying to make nice with a powerful neighbor he just ticked off. No, this is a moment of profound historical recognition. It's something way, way deeper than just politics.
The hidden story here is that Abimelech has been watching this family for decades. He sees this clear pattern of divine blessing. He recognizes that Isaac is protected by a power that is way beyond him. And so his visit isn't really an admission of weakness, it's an admission of awe. And yeah, probably a little bit of fear too. He's not trying to make a deal with Isaac, he's trying to reconnect with a family that is clearly touched by the divine.
So what seemed like a straightforward negotiation, right? It's actually a king bowing to a force that he has witnessed for decades. The subtext, all that history and divine power, it's suddenly become the main text of the story. This is about a powerful monarch admitting that Isaac is blessed of God and that he desperately wants to be on the right side of that blessing. It's a stunning moment of humility, really.
And this whole thing just leaves us with a really fascinating thought, doesn't it? By looking super closely at a bit of grammar and a repeated word, this entire hidden history just opened up. It really makes you wonder, in our own lives, how many simple conversations, how many simple requests are actually the final chapter of a long unseen story, just waiting for someone to read between the lines?